Linda, you described the post-affair divorce as a spiritual car crash. So, for those who've lost their marriages after infidelity, why is this specific type of grief perhaps more complex than what we might call a standard divorce or even infidelity where the couple stays together? Why is this grief so unique?
Well, as a therapist that has specialized in infidelity recovery, I've helped a lot of couples work it through, and healing is ideal when it can be in relationship
Yeah,
with the offender. And I have helped a lot of people do that, but never dreamed that halfway through my career, I would need the same kind of help in my own marriage, but it didn't work out. So I was pretty devastated. I think I learned that it's very different. Well, it's not different in terms of the repeat traumas. It's just different in terms of when they happen and how they happen. Kids exchanges, all those kinds of things. There's more to deal with in a different sense, where the person who stays in the marriage has to deal with current triggers of just being with the person. And so it's a little different, but it's also a loss that has a lot of shame with it. It makes the infidelity and the loss more public. A lot of times people that have been through this kind of betrayal, they may stay in the marriage and it doesn't become public fodder as easily as when there's a divorce. Then
sure.
it comes out more. It's more personal than a death. Most losses for widows usually weren't personal. It was an accident or an illness. There's a stigma to the loss from infidelity because you feel even more inadequate. I couldn't keep my spouse not only faithful, but I couldn't keep them committed to the marriage. That's the thinking that the person starts to feel. And so it does feel personal. It's a stigma in that it's more similar to losing someone by suicide or murder or a drug overdose. There's something shameful, and people don't know how to respond. I remember going to a retreat, women's retreat, and a friend of mine had lost her husband to cancer, and then my divorce had only been final for a month. And we were treated so differently. She was given lots of hugs and encouragement. She even had a cabin nearby the retreat center that she took friends to that was still hers. And so she hadn't lost their assets. And even though, you lose a second income, the losses are still different. I didn't even have a house. I had a condo that I was living in at the time. And I don't know if anybody touched me the whole weekend. They were giving her hugs all the time. And I was glad that I found two friends that one thought her husband was involved with some same-sex relationships, and another one, and then my friend that was a widow, we kind of hung out together. But anyway, we were treated differently. And it's sort of, we call it a ambiguous loss because there's no body to bury. There's no rituals around it other than courtrooms and, divorce papers. And so it's a hard one to process. And people think, oh, it's like a high school breakup. You just need to move on. Well, it's not. You've intertwined your life, your kids, your finances, everything, and everything is touched. And plus, people feel the division. They can't always be friends with both of you in the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's a lot of, the kids feel like they have to be secret about what goes on at mom's house, dad's house. Yeah, there's just a lot. And you just don't have the same social support that you do with a death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard that with a lot of the women that we work with, and even who are in betrayal and beyond groups, they describe it exactly the same way. They say that, the woman who lost their husband, they set up meal trains and they offer to watch the kids. And, it's this outpour of, support and love. And, and then for the one who is getting divorced, they have nothing. In fact, it's almost like because the church doesn't know what to do and
Yes.
and they are not well trained or equipped in order to handle a divorce situation, that then it's just like, okay, if we just don't look that direction, then we don't have to think about that. But they feel so alone and isolated, and even like abandoned to a different degree, because it's like, wait a minute, last week you were my support, and this week I have nothing, and I completely agree. It's different than like just a loss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because so many of us are not well versed in this, it maybe hasn't been our experience, and we talk about it all the time at Pure Desire, that churches and communities don't really know how to talk about pornography or sexual abuse, and let alone a sexual affair where then a divorce happens. We may ask someone about their divorce out of like normal human curiosity, like, oh, what happened? And then we get an answer of, well, over his infidelity. And that, like, I think there is maybe unfortunately a common response of, oh, and then silence, like, I don't really know what to do with that. Like, I'm sorry. And then we move on, probably because we're uncomfortable. And I think what you're doing, Linda, is giving voice to that and just acknowledging this is hard and it's messy and there's a lot of layers. And so for the person going through it, to just give themselves that grace and kindness of, this is hard and there's a lot of layers to it. And there's not a lot of support in our world to understand how to handle this. And if we can see that that's what we're experiencing as normal, I'm not saying that makes it any easier, but I think can help us feel grace and kindness towards ourselves when we feel like, why is this so hard?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I think just knowing that it is hard for a reason, and that it isn't other people's fault. Mm-hmm. People, if they haven't been through it or they don't know what to say, it's not their fault. Although sometimes you do end up feeling betrayed by friends who either believe maybe some lies about the situation, or support the other person, thinking that you were the bad guy, and you don't want to run around saying all the gory details to everybody. I had to choose my A, B, and C people. A people, my very small group that knows everything. My B people are little more like acquaintances, and then the C people, they don't want to know any of it because they don't want to have to choose sides or sympathize. So